Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to Pro Cycling Manager 2020. It's Champions. It's the final episode, episode 56. We just started a new season. However, it's already late April. We've pushed on, as promised, to Paris-Roubaix to get one race in. But we're here just checking up on the database, seeing the progress of the riders. At the moment, in terms of average, we've got riders at 82. We've got almost the entire UI page at 81. The group has definitely developed a bit. Those who were on 16, most of them have probably hit that 17 by this point with the extra 4 months of time passed, and we might have a couple riders at level 18. And again, we're talking about out of 20 level. Getting through a season, I've already put in 2 hours just to get through 4 months, so it does take a while. Now, I didn't just work on this over the 2 hours. I ate breakfast, I drank coffee, I caught up on the Giro d'Italia coverage that I don't get full of. I just get highlights of, and watching GCN, and you know, I was active during that time, not just doing this, but it still took 2 hours. We don't come into this one with great race day condition. Black Widow and Gamora both on -4s. Deadpool on a -2. Groot on a -1. And of course, that is the AI management of fitness and schedules for you. It's absolutely atrocious. I have not done any of that for this season. But what has happened for this season is that this squad is continuing to get better and stronger. 3-minute gap. Now 12 riders at the front, as those 3 have joined them, so we've got to keep an eye on that. At this point, a fall is probably going to rule you out of this race, as you can see the tempo is now getting quite high, and 2 more contenders trying to go out the front, so we've got to be very, very careful about this going forward. We are among the contenders ourselves, and so we might have to start managing the group. More riders attacking off the front. And again, with the slightly among those that are contenders. I don't know why they feel that this is it. 2.5 minutes over the peloton, with a large peloton at this point with 120k to go. Right now, we're still in that cruise mode. Okay, 240. We're going to take over here shortly. One more cobbled section, and then we've got a bit of a flat area. We're going to grab water. Oh, Spider-Man with a puncture. Okay, he's up and running, and just about losing contact here, but also just about not. Alright, gap's down to 205, by the way, so that was not an issue. Black Widow spent a lot of energy on that chase, but here we go. It's going to start getting harder from here. At the moment, we've got just 39 in the peloton. 38, 37, which means the damage is starting to be done, and it does come back together slightly, but I think it is also time that we get on with this race. So Spider-Man. As we push through this 5-star 2K section. Right now we're in a nice strong position. Starting to pull back some of the riders again. Fewer and fewer breakaway riders, and they're split up all over the place, making things that much easier on us. Black Widow's been technically working, though we haven't actually seen her go on the front. Gamora's going to be a good one to get on the front now. Was protecting Groot, and okay, here comes the attack. Moscon, Seneschal, Bovin, definitely strong cobbled riders. Gamora to the front. It's going to gel up. 3 stars. Don't block off your teammate, please. Thank you. Block off the other riders, though. Feel free. Alright, so we're down to a minute and a half. It's back down to 9 riders at the front. Definitely not the original 9 riders. But we're at 54 in the peloton, some of those being those breakaway riders that have been reeled back in. Another 4-star section. Gamora doing the majority of the work at the front at the moment. And Black Widow right on the back of the group. And you can see a split coming. You can definitely see a split coming. There we go, down to 44. Again, going back behind the slower rider. And we're down to 27 now. De Boist, Postelberger, De Gent, Van Hooydonk out the back. Benoot. There's a lot of good riders right here in this group. And Barl, Vellens, Eriksson, we're down to 27. And those groups are falling back for sure. Wolverine. And there's more riders going backwards, down to 22.
Several riders are on the ground.
Spider-Man. Oh, Spider-Man also fading. This is 70k to go, by the way. There's a lot of distance still to cover. Somebody with a puncture there. And it's down to 19 chasing 5, and the 5 are collapsing and barely ahead of us now. So very much looking like the winner's going to come out of this group. Groot is barely hanging on at this point. "20 chasing 4. The 4, gotta watch out. Sagan, Youngles, Krag Anderson, Hofstetter. Very good group. Easily could run away with this thing. And we're seeing an attack at the moment, which needs a response. So, Deadpool's 85. So we don't get left behind. Okay, sit up. We don't need to do all this chasing. We just need to keep that front group about a minute away. If they're not pulling away from us, we're okay. Back out to a minute, but that's only 5 seconds further away. Let's go ahead and up the tempo a little bit. We're seeing Sepp Van Mark going clear. 99 for Groot, and just ride as hard as they can. They got nothing left in the tank, but as long as the gap's not pulling out. 60k. We don't need to be rash. We don't need to destroy our riders right now. Two strong cobbled riders, and there you go. We just left a big chunk of this group behind and made up a lot of ground on those in front of us. We've caught up to Sagan. There's Stuyven and Van Mark just ahead of us. Let's try to make contact with them here briefly, and we do, and it's just a group of 4. So Nebula and Deadpool have left the peloton behind, now going clear. Just 2 riders left up the road, Krag Anderson and then Hofstetter at the front. And here we go again. Okay, group of 4 make contact, but again, we push. And it's all together. We are now the front of the race. Hofstetter, we've got some. Hofstetter willing to work. Again, we're going to push, try to leave riders behind, especially the way Deadpool is right now. We're going to push in the cobbled sections and then just kind of ride on in the flat. And you can see the extreme fatigue, and it's 40k to go. Okay, coming up on another cobbled section, and it's all of a sudden up to 20 as nobody else was willing to work there. Okay, we've got to sit up again though. Deadpool's still looking good. And Betty Alt attacking the group. The upcoming sections, Deadpool could potentially go completely clear. Nizzolo, who crashed quite a while ago, finally crashes themselves out of this race. Okay, Nebula. Push as fast as you can. Try to keep it close. Not worried about 20 seconds to Betty All with the likes of Deadpool. This is not the sector. It's just 2 stars. back behind Nebula, please. Deadpool. Deadpool. Come on. There you go. I want you near the front. Nebula's using up her energy and not recovering, but that's okay.
Your riders really should pay more attention to their choice of tires.
Alright, she's sitting on at the moment. We can't allow Betty-All to get away. That's kind of the danger zone that we're in right now. But Deadpool, I want Deadpool attacking like we're seeing right now. We've been stuck on that for quite a while. Okay, so we're definitely ahead. And Betty-All and Nawson now with us. Will they work? There we go. Now we've got cooperation and 30 seconds. 78-78. I think we could definitely beat them in a sprint, though both of them are fairly capable in a sprint. 4-star section. Not a lot of energy left, so you don't really want to ride clear. But 30 seconds, out to 36 seconds. We're slowly pulling away from those behind us. Holding at 34, 35 seconds. I wonder if we should try to go clear in this last sector. "16 seconds ahead. We're going to gel up now. One more cobbled section to go, and then the velodrome. Holding energy just barely here. 18 seconds ahead. We've opened the gap up a little bit. Gel just in time because we hit the last cobbled section of this race. And we're going to come through it with just a little bit of energy left and a 16-second gap. We're going to turn into the cobbled section solo with a 14-second advantage, which is tiny. But those two clearly did not have much energy. And we're the first one into the velodrome, but can we hang on with an 11-second gap? 7-second gap? They're coming back at me. 3K to go. We got to push a little harder here. Final lap. 2K to go. And they've caught up to me. Betty-All has, anyway. 2K to go. We have a just tiny bit. He's out of energy, too. 3 riders now. 11 riders. Oh, shoot. 11 riders. We're going to have to sprint first, but we're not going to have enough to get all the way to the finish, are we? Are we? Oh, we might. We might just hang on. And we do. Deadpool for the win. Betty-All Sagan round out the podium. Whew. Close. Jeez, that all came back together right at the end. And then Nebula riding solo for 15th place. Just enough. Just enough. All right, folks. Well, that's it for the racing. Let's go ahead and push through another 8 months, and we'll see how long that takes me to get through, because I have other work to do. But I'll see you in December for an update. By the way, 3-1 are World Tour points compared to second place Ineos right now. 3-1. As in, they've got 3,000 and we've got 10,000. Well, we're doing well. But Pogacar still right there with Hulk at the top of the standings. So even with nothing but quick sims outside of today, we're still seeing a strong set of results. Many hours running simulations, I finally reached the end of the season. So here we go. Quick recap of the major races, the results, and then we'll push forward to the database. Bernal won the Tour de France, but we did get 2 riders on the podium, Dr. Strange and Storm. As a GC rider, the team by default was riding for Storm. Storm was not in a strong fitness level, or Dr. Strange for that matter. Dr. Strange, as a stronger climber, kind of put himself into actually a better position than what Storm was able to manage. Andrade took second, Gamora took third as a puncher, so that was pretty impressive from her. Great ride on that one. And in La Vuelta, Hulk swept all 4 jerseys, which can happen at La Vuelta. Storm, that same rider, with another second place finish. Vlasov just pipping Black Widow on stage 20. Otherwise, we would have had a 1-2-3. A 1-3 in Torino Adriatico. A a win at the Catalunya, a sweep of the podium in Romandy, another win at the Dauphiné, Tour de Suisse, and close on the Bink Bank. One podium, another top 5. Down under, the only place where we completely missed out with just a 10th place finish. Jakobsen stealing that one from Groot. We get 2nd and 5th. Flanders, a win for Groot. A win at Paris-Roubaix for Deadpool. 2nd place for Doctor Strange at Liège-Bastogne-Liège. And then Il-Lombardia, 2nd for Gamora. So not quite dominance in the monuments as we did in all the tour races, but we're definitely better over a number of stages, getting the individual win in just a single event a little bit harder. Consistently getting podiums, though, very, very easy for this team, and that's why that adds up to winning so many of the tours themselves. Not quite a total sweep as Bernal and Pogačar both get into a high placing 3rd and 4th overall in the World Tour rankings individual, but 7 of the top 9 placings is insane. Only 9 riders go over 2,000 points, and we have 7 of them, including a 1-2 for Hulk and Storm. No surprise that we absolutely crush everybody in the World Tour rankings at nearly 34,000 points, with Ineos at 13,000. That's a massive, massive margin. And then likewise in the Super Prestige, 2.5 to 1 over Ineos. And of course, if we were doing the actual Game of Decathlon scoring, 10,000 is a perfect 1,000 because I divide the score by 10. So we got 2.5 times that nearly. That's crazy. And that's with quick sims and all about one race all year long. So yowzer. There you go. Dominance of the team still assured even through quick simulation on paper. We are just so strong compared to everybody else. Let's go ahead and push forward, get that database. Let's see, one last thing here. 154 wins this season. Petronas, 2nd most, Continental team 50. Makes sense that Continental teams, the other 2 podium places, because the World Tour races was total domination on our part. Now breaking down the database probably one final time here. I was planning on doing that 6th season to try to get us all the way through the levels. But you'll see why as we go through this, where that's not quite necessary. We won't have our full data set, but we'll be okay. And plus, I really don't have 6 to 8 hours to spare to simulate another season. All right, well, here we go. So first off, popularity. Now all of the riders are roughly 50 or better, other than a couple that are a little bit below that, including, again, the most popular riders in all of the peloton easily. The majority of the top 10 most popular riders are all on our team. But breaking down that F value, the current ratings. Almost all of the team has topped 80 now. They're all pushing the limits, but they're not quite there as of yet. But what we have is the original 14, their average 81.2. The trio that we've added in, Cyclops, Doctor Strange, and Storm, each successive season, and then just kind of let it be from there, not bothering to make additional ones. With them, the average rises. It actually rises to 81.4. Now, it rose last season as well, just barely. It rises even further this season. That trio, an 83, an 82, and an 81, and all 3 of them are above the average, even though they're at levels 15, 15, and 12. They still have a bit further to go than everybody else. One quick, simple thing that stands out that we'll go over right now is that if you start higher, you're going to level up in a better manner. You're going to get closer to whatever that potential actually is. Doesn't matter if you have good potential or not. If you're starting at 50 and your max is 85, it takes a long time to get there, and you're not quite going to get there. Where if you start a bit closer, you're going to be a bit better off. So kind of going back to that age-old question of, do we just go for potential, or do we go for the best rider we can handle, or that we could find that also has potential? And it is the later. You're going to be better off going for that rider that is already a 65 versus somebody who starts out as a a 53, and they both have 5'8 potential. That 65 is going to be a better rider, period. I can tell you that much. But I can also tell you that I think it has a bit more to do with what their capacity is, as opposed to what the potential number is. Because the potential between a 6 and an 8 anyway, the differences are negligible. Hardly noticing anything. And we didn't have the 6s coming up way short of the others. Our highest rated rider in the entire team is a potential 6 rider. The highest average of anyone. So, that being said, the difference between that 5'8" really doesn't matter. If you can get anybody into the 5'8", they're going to be pretty good. They're going to be pretty solid. And I think it's going to have more to do with how high are they now and how young are they. And that's what you're going to be looking for when everything's hidden and you're not actually looking into the database to see how good a rider actually could become. Now, moving over into the capital. Of course, this is what we've been paying so much attention to, knowing that there are 20 levels, and level 20, you hit it at 6,600, so 6,600. Now, nobody's there right now, but we are getting awfully close. I mean, we have 3 riders over 6,200, so we have 3 riders that very early in the year, this coming season, would hit that 20th and final level. So they're on level 19 right now. There's actually 5 riders that are on level 19 right now, which happens at 5,900, so 700 less. Also 700 less than that at 5,200 is where you hit level 18. And actually there's a few riders that are lagging behind. There are 3 riders that have not hit that 5,200 yet. There's 3 riders that are still below 5,000. Now the main reason why that has happened, why we've got a few riders that are really lagging behind, is that unlike in previous seasons where I swapped out staff when there was issues with trainers, I didn't. So rate of growth, really dependent on trainer, is something that's really shown up in here. The quality of the trainer and the relationship with the trainer is massive. That's the biggest takeaway that I've got from this in terms of what we can impact, because I think we all already knew. Find a good, young, high potential rider. Okay, that's obvious. Less obvious is that get the best trainer that you can muster and make sure that they've got good relationships, and get the appropriate trainer for the training style of your riders. Training is huge, because I really saw it. There's a good 500 to 800 point lag in the riders who had poor relationships with their trainer. So massive lag. All right, now continuing on. The values, the capital. The average on the team, the original 14 anyway, 18.14. And like I said, there's a handful, 5, that are on the verge of that max level, that level 20. But here's the thing. As per kind of the experiment, right? I had 2 riders in each specialty in the original 14, and then we added in 3 more. The 3 more, even though their capital is only about halfway or a third of the way to their max, they've got plenty of levels still ahead of them. They've got a long ways to go, and yes, they developed higher and better than those who all started at 50. So we got that. But one thing of note is the specialties that they had. If you were a climber, I trained them as a climber. Some of them have now hit level 85 as a climber. Their rating is maxed out, but I still have them training as a climber. They have 1 or 2 or 3 levels left, and for a while they've been at 83 or 84 in the mountain, meaning they've almost capped out or have capped out, and then still had 3 to 4 levels to go. In reality, you wouldn't want to train as a climber for all 20 levels. 15 plus? Oh, sure. You want to get near that capacity, near that max, whatever it may be. To train all 20 levels, not advisable, because I've seen growth slow drastically in the levels we've gained of late. And I think that growth rate, right? So we moved up almost 2 levels from last season, but our average only went up not quite 1.5, where the previous season we gained 2.6 in that two levels exact. So you can see a pretty significant drop off, massive drop off. I mean, it dropped off by more than half. I think the main reason for that, though, is hitting that capacity, hitting that max. Now, if I had a climber and they had an 85 mountain, but they were a 70-something time trial, and I know that they have a cap of 85, then maybe I train them in time trial, or maybe I train them in sprint, or, something to give them a few more points somewhere that's well below the mark. And then all of a sudden you start training in something that you're in the low mid 70s, where everything else is almost maxed out. You got a better chance of closing that gap and getting a little bit closer to an 85. But I can tell you right now, being that almost all of our riders are either a level 18 or a level 19, nobody's going to hit an 85. Nobody's going to hit that cap. I would get closer, nearly get there, if I swapped their training styles from about level 15 on. Because at that point, you're just about there, and you train something else, you still might gain a point somewhere along the line in your main training area. But we're kind of wasting these final levels. That's the point I'm trying to make on that, is sticking to that training style has cost them dearly in their last couple of levels that they've gained. It looks like till maybe level 16, you're pretty good. After that, you really need to change it up, or level 15 or so. And I think you can kind of recognize when you get to that point, when they get really, really good at the thing that they're at their specialty. That's where it's time to now dip in and strengthen a secondary component. But I've also seen things within the database that if you start early on a weaker category, and then, so your first few levels are on something weaker, and then you go into your main and kind of run your main throughout, that there's actually a better chance of getting closer to all your limits versus just getting close to some of your limits. That's been tested a little bit, but not proven. So I would suspect that there is something to that could be a possibility, one way to do it. But you definitely want to diversify a little bit. You want to kind of have two specialties, and if you haven't figured it out, this game works off of two specialties. If you know from the Pro Cyclist mode, right? You have a primary and a secondary, and that secondary gives you a little bit of boost. And if you can kind of identify what that secondary might be in your career riders, you may be able to get a little bit more out of them and kind of double down and get that bonus, because it's clear that 20 levels of the same training is detrimental in those final few levels. All right, well, that's the big takeaways. So find a second training for about 5 levels or so, whether that's at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of your training regime. 15 for your main, 5 or so, maybe 16, 14, 16, 4, or 15, 5 for a primary, and then a secondary in terms of training, and you'll probably get the most out of your riders. The higher potential, which you don't know, I don't mean the potential as in that 5.8. I mean potential as in what is the actual cap under the hood. The better that is, the better the rider is going to be, regardless of whether they have a good potential or not. Assuming, though, that if they have a 1 or 2 potential, they're going to get too old before they ever actually achieve what that ceiling is. I think if I were to rerun an experiment along these lines with PCM21, what I would try to do with that one is put the potential on the opposite end of the spectrum. Put a bunch of 1s, 2s, and 3s, and maybe 4s, 1 through 4s, and then still have a high ceiling, and see how well they do and how long it takes and how much longer we have to go into things before they actually develop and get near the ceiling and get insanely good. Do they get there in 6 seasons? I mean, we got ridiculously good by season 4. We got pretty untouchable by season 4. This was the end of season 5. Season 6, we'd have just about everybody to their final level. And, I mean, the team was untouchable this year without us even controlling them. Imagine what would happen if we were doing all those races. Imagine what would happen if we were doing the season 6 races. I'd sweep the podium on most every race. even with the extreme difficulty. That would be kind of the nature of where this team's at that point, especially if I were managing their fitness. I took a couple times during season 5, maybe 3 times the whole season, where I dipped in and fixed fitness for a 2-month stretch for 4 or 5 or 6 riders, and that was it. Not bothering with the rest. So I very, very, minute impact on the overall of that, but the AI itself was, terrible in the way that they managed that. The reason why I'm not going to bother with season 6 is I can already tell you where the outcomes are, right? We're going to get that level 20 for all but roughly 3 riders of the original 14. Of course, the 3 additional ones will be nowhere near their cap, but we also know that they, starting from a higher start point, are much closer to that overall, to that extreme. So for them, it's quite evident that you can get much closer to your ceiling if you start from a higher point. So find those good young riders. So yes, that's all obvious, but I think the biggest takeaway, the biggest impact thing that you can do is find a way within your budget to have good trainers and make sure you have good relationships with the riders, because when the relationships are bad, the numbers will plummet. The progress will plummet. It will not be good. So, and without a trainer, they don't progress well at all. Very, very minor. So trainers, big thing. That's the big takeaway from this series. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And let me know in the comments below if there's any future experiments from scratch, things you're curious about. Let me know, because I'm certainly looking for new ideas. Not anytime soon. PCM20 obviously just came out this week, and I've got a lot of just catching up to do and series to get started and whatnot. So before I get into anything along these lines, that's going to be some months down the road. But it's never too soon to let me know what you would like to see next time. So I'm Decathlon Gamer. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like button. I'll see you next time. If you haven't yet, please do hit subscribe. It's been a whole lot of episodes here. You've seen plenty. I think by now that red button can be clicked. That's all it takes you. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Vax up, mask up. Bye for now.